Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy MTS here, back in another video, and welcome to part one of what I think Celtic should stand for. Of course, as ever, I would love to read your comments and possibly hear any thoughts you have. If you want to make any reaction videos, as I often say, this video, along with all the other parts of it in the series of videos, is going to be about football. So. Or soccer for any Americans, as I often say. So if you're not into football, I'm afraid this video is probably not going to be for you. Although I welcome all possible views, all the same. So I do welcome all support, but this is really geared towards those who are interested in football rather than my other videos, which sometimes are into things like politics or whatever. I want to ask also, before I start the list of my thoughts on this topic, what do you think of my cat? By the way, what do you think of my kitten? I think it's pretty cute when I put him on my shoulder and stuff like that, although he's a pain in the neck. But as I mentioned on my Facebook video, I was in the video on Facebook. I mentioned how I was going to go for a long walk to see my dad, and I didn't mention it was to see my dad, but I said I was going to go for a long walk. I haven't been for a long walk for a long time, so I decided to walk as I used to do. I always decide to walk when I go there, but I needed the exercise because you probably can't tell, but I put on quite a lot of weight. If you know me well enough, you'll know. But I think it's quite apt. I'm wearing green, although it's not white and green like Celtic is. It's still got the green. But and underneath this, I've got my top, which says "Welcome to Ireland." If you don't like the weather, wait for 5 minutes, which is what my family got me from Ireland when they went there. At that time, I was afraid of flying. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with the list. As one of my sisters said to me, it's part of your ancestry, so you should have gone to visit Ireland. You should have gone to visit it, but I was afraid of flying at that time. But anyway, here are a list of some of my thoughts on this topic. So here goes. So number one, I would love for Celtic to, I don't know if stand for is the right word, but principally and ethically, morally, or whatever the difference is between those things. I use those terms interchangeably. I would love for Celtic to support startups for people from developing nations, or former colonies all around the world, so that they can help them start their own businesses, their own startups and things like that. Number two, I would love for Celtic to connect with the fans and look at ways they can learn from the fans and listen to the fans and what the fans' goals are for the team, and that kind of thing. So they can connect with the fans, possibly having opinion polls and things like that on the official website and YouTube and things like that. I forgot to say actually in the intro, I know the intro did drag on a bit, but a good victory for Celtic today, 3-0. I think Rangers also won, unfortunately, but I don't really follow their scores. But I think someone told me to check the score for me. He said Celtic won 3-0, but also Rangers won 3-0 as well. But we're still 4 points clear, which still gives us breathing space as long as we win most of our games. I hope we can go on to win all our domestic games, or certainly as many as possible, of course. It'd be cool to win all the remaining domestic games, and I think that would be, obviously there's probably nothing the Rangers can do to beat us if we win all our remaining games. I'd say it's all ifs and buts, I suppose, at the moment, but there you go. Number three, this will be a hard sell, so to speak, i.e. it would be hard to convince people, Celtic fans. I suppose what selling is the art of persuasion, and this would be hard to persuade, convince, or whatnot, my fellow Celts, i.e. Celtic fans, to support this, to get on board with this. But I would love for us to support libertarianism, freedom of choice. People would be able to make their own decisions instead of socialism, communism, and certainly instead of Marxism. I suppose those things all go hand in glove. I would prefer us to be slightly more to the right, like centre right, and fiscally conservative, and again giving people as many freedoms as possible. So I support Celtic, not as many Celtic fans might do, as for like socialist reasons, but I support them, even though I'm a libertarian and more right wing than most Celtic fans. I support them for the reason that Ireland, where the Celts come from, where Celtic is based, like sort of went through a lot of oppression, and so the things they stand for, like republicanism and anti-imperialism, things like that, anti-racism, stuff like that. There's sort of things I support also. I also support. Number four, I'd also love for us, again, this might be a hard sell, but I'd love for certainly the club itself, to stand for again, libertarianism, anti-force and things like that, but also sticking within the law, pacifism, conscientious objection, and that kind of thing. Maybe working with the police, possibly even like football in the community, looking at how to get young people out of crime. And hopefully the club will be rewarded through having like more funding for academies and stuff like that through the state and stuff like that. But football in the community and things like that, and how to cut terrorism and crime generally, criminality and that kind of thing, and help people in a very deprived area of the UK, i.e. Glasgow, with football academies, things like that, and helping young people to improve their diet, stay out of trouble, and find something to do which will keep them healthy. It will save the NHS money, it will basically help just generally to cut crime and things like that as well. And working with the police in terms of things like prevent and things like that, so including people in the community, whether they're Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Sikh, or whatever else in between, helping people from all backgrounds, all faiths, and all walks of life to get into football. And Celtic could also work with FIFA, UEFA, and others, and charities and NGOs, and all those involved in football, the SFA, Scottish FA, and others in Scotland and across the UK and around the world. Again, as I say, football in the community and things like that as well, to, as I say, discourage crime, get more people into football. Obviously, it'll be in FIFA's interest, as I often say, to get more people into football, as well as other governing bodies and stuff like that, football bodies, and it'll be good for Scottish football, and all that being the pride of Scotland. That Celtic is, in my opinion. Again, these are all my personal opinions. Number 5, again, connecting with the fans and looking at how they can work with police. The police, politicians, I was going to say, and councillors and all those involved in politics, and again the SFA and others, and maybe getting support from the government and from businesses, sponsors, and all that kind of thing to invest in like spaces and places for sport, in this case football, especially for young Glaswegians, and things like that, giving young people things to do in Glasgow. Number 6, I would love for Celtic to have a partnership with Italian football, so they can like train together, especially at youth level. Number 7, and look into all possible ways they can benefit, including like having 7-a-side pitches and things like that, fundraising to have 7-a-side pitches. But be careful how I pronounce that word, as I often say, to practice and give young people, especially, the opportunity to practice, and having as many academies and sports clubs and stuff like that, CSCs, as possible. A point I hope to come to, and I might repeat a few times because I think it's quite an important one, in my opinion. Not that I want to be self-important or anything like that, but also celebrity sports, especially, and fans of Celtic generally, sports of Celtic, helping the club, investing in, sponsoring and donating to the club, even to help the club to build academies and that kind of thing. Number 8, as the club already does, I'd love for them to carry on challenging prejudice and racism included, and work with POC, people of colour, and other minorities and whatnot in Glasgow and across Scotland and across the UK, and even around the world. Hopefully that will be a mutual benefit, hopefully, as well as helping others. It will benefit the club itself as well. And for instance, in turn, hopefully people of colour, POC, will support Celtic. Number 9, also non-WASPs, people who are not white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, so people from all different religions, all sorts of backgrounds, all colours and shapes and sizes and whatever, or people of all sorts of backgrounds. I would love to support them, for them to support Celtic and for the club to work with them and to benefit as many people as possible. And number 10, supporting youth academies. And I think my favourite figure, I suppose, in a way, 10%. I think 10% of whatever revenue or profit the club gets, or even revenue. It would be cool if they could get tax exemptions for doing stuff like this, but it'd be cool if they could buy the best possible players. I think 10% should go into buying, 10% of all the revenue should go towards buying the best possible players, investing in the youth academies and things like that, marketing, branding and promotion of the club and things like that. I use those terms interchangeably again, and half of that budget, which would be 5% of the overall revenue, of course, I think should go towards building Celtic sports clubs and academies around the world, which would hopefully increase the fan base, again, to a mutual benefit, or to benefit all parties involved. hopefully the only ones who won't benefit from it will be our arch rivals, or nearest and dearest, as I say sarcastically, the Rangers, or as I call them, the Rankers, which rhymes with something else that begins with W. But anyway, moving on. Also, and finally, 10% to the foundation and the charitable work they do in Glasgow and across Scotland and the UK and even around the world, especially in developing nations in what I call the six. So people of colour, Anthropical, indigenous people from Africa, Australasia, the Americas, Asia, Latin America, and Ireland as well, and working with Celtic countries, as I call them. Most people call them Celtic nations, but because I'm a bit strange, I call them Celtic countries because I love alliterations too much, sort of a compulsion that I have. But yeah, I'd love for the club to work with people from Celtic countries, which I should have said in point number 8 perhaps, but I forgot. Anyway, hopefully that made some sort of sense and you enjoyed it. And again, I would love to read your own comments. And I am out. Peace and love.